Admiral Hansel sat in the dimly lit command room of the massive warship UDS Defiance. The blue glow from the holographic display cast shadows across his weathered face as he read the alien message for the third time. Around the circular table, Earth's top military leaders waited in tense silence. The hologram flickered, showing the face of an alien creature with multiple eyes and translucent skin. When it spoke, the mechanical translator gave its words a cold, emotionless tone that somehow made the threat even more terrifying. Humans of Sol System, your species has expanded too far into space that does not belong to you. We are the Hegemony Council, representing 12 advanced civilizations. You have 24 standard hours to withdraw from all colonies beyond your home system and place yourselves under our protection. If you refuse this generous offer, we will remove your aggressive presence from the galaxy permanently. Captain Yi-jun shifted uncomfortably in his chair. At 32, he was the youngest person ever to command an Earth fleet. But even his optimistic nature couldn't ignore the massive threat they faced. He pulled up another screen showing intelligence reports about their enemies. Admiral, their analysis of us isn't flattering, Yi-jun said, his voice tight with worry. They've labeled humans as primitive warmongers with dangerous and unpredictable technology. They think we're too violent to exist alongside civilized species. Defense Minister Soman activated a three-dimensional map that filled the center of the table. Tiny points of light represented human settlements scattered across space like jewels on black velvet. Each light represented thousands of people who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars. 47 colonies, she said quietly. 12 million people, families, children, scientists, farmers, artists. They want us to abandon everyone who dared to dream of life beyond Earth. Everything we've built over the past 100 years, they want us to just walk away from it. The room fell silent as everyone studied the display. Each person present had friends or family living on those distant worlds. The colonies weren't just military outposts or mining stations. They were home to millions of humans who had never known any world but the one they were born on. Dr. Jinwoo, from the science division, cleared his throat nervously. Admiral, I've been analyzing their fleet composition. The numbers are ... intimidating. He brought up technical readouts that made everyone's hearts sink. Their smallest ships are 3 times larger than our biggest battleships. Their weapons can destroy entire planets from orbit. Conservative estimates put their combined fleet at over 4,000 vessels. Admiral Hansel leaned back in his chair, feeling the weight of impossible odds pressing down on him. Every piece of data painted the same picture. Humanity was like a child facing 12 adults, each armed with weapons that could end civilizations. The smart choice, the logical choice, would be to accept the alien terms and hope for mercy. They're not entirely wrong about us, Hansel said slowly. Humans have always been fighters. We've been at war with something for most of our history. Disease, nature, each other. Maybe that's why they see us as a threat. Captain Yi-jun nodded. Our first contact protocols assumed we'd meet peaceful aliens interested in trade and cultural exchange. Instead, we found an empire that sees us as dangerous animals that need to be caged. Defense Minister Soman pulled up casualty projections if fighting broke out. The numbers were staggering. Even if humanity won, which seemed impossible, millions would die. Earth itself might not survive if the aliens decided to make an example of the human homeworld. There's another factor to consider, Dr. Jinwoo added hesitantly. Our colonial governments have already sent their responses to Earth. They're unanimous. Not one colony has agreed to evacuation. They'd rather fight than abandon their homes. The Admiral stood and walked to the large window that looked out into space. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were already moving into position. Somewhere else, human families were tucking their children into bed, not knowing that their entire civilization hung in the balance. Sir, Captain Eugen said quietly. What do we tell them? Hansel thought about his own grandson, who lived on New Harmony Colony with his daughter. The boy had never seen Earth, had never breathed air that wasn't recycled through atmospheric processors. New Harmony was his home, his entire world. How could anyone ask him to leave the only place he'd ever known? The Admiral turned back to face his staff. In their eyes, he saw fear mixed with determination. These were people who had devoted their lives to protecting humanity's future among the stars. They had families scattered across those 47 worlds. They had friends who would rather die fighting than live in alien-controlled camps. Send this message to the Hegemony Council, Hansel said, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to unleash. Humanity does not kneel. The transmission was sent within the hour. In the depths of space, alien commanders received the three-word response with reactions ranging from amusement to annoyance. The humans had made their choice, and it was exactly what the hegemony had expected from such a primitive, aggressive species. Soon, the galaxy would be free of their violent influence forever. None of them realized they had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. The attack began in the early morning darkness, when most colonists were still asleep. Commander Sujin stood on the bridge of her warship, the UDS Phoenix, watching her sensor displays with growing tension. The peaceful space around Kepler 442 colony suddenly erupted with massive alien ships dropping out of hyperspace, like deadly metal mountains. Contact, shouted Lieutenant Tehan from his station. 12 enemy dreadnoughts, sir. Each one is at least 3 times larger than our biggest ship. His voice cracked slightly as more contacts appeared on screen. They're not even trying to hide or dodge. They're coming straight at us. Sujin gripped the armrest of her command chair. The alien ships were huge, dark, and covered in weapon ports that glowed with threatening energy. Her small defense fleet of 6 human vessels looked like toys compared to the massive alien warships bearing down on them. They think this will be easy, she muttered, watching the enemy formation advance without any tactical maneuvering. The aliens weren't even bothering to spread out or take defensive positions. They simply flew forward in a straight line, confident that their size and firepower would end the fight quickly. The first alien attack came like lightning from the void. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from the dreadnoughts, each blast powerful enough to vaporize a human ship completely. The colonists watching from the surface expected to see their defenders turn to burning debris in seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. Just before the alien weapons hit their targets, the human ships simply vanished. They didn't explode or break apart. They just disappeared like ghosts, leaving the deadly energy beams to slice through empty space. Phase jump successful, reported the navigation officer. All ships have micro-jumped as planned. Sujin allowed herself a small smile. For the past 10 years, human scientists had been working on experimental technology that could teleport ships very short distances almost instantly. The aliens had never seen anything like it, because no other species had been desperate enough to try such dangerous experiments. Now, she whispered. The human ships reappeared in the middle of the alien formation, materializing between the massive dreadnoughts like deadly surprises. At point-blank range, every shot would count. The Phoenix and her sister ships opened fire with everything they had. Kinetic rounds, traveling at incredible speeds, punched through alien armor that had never been tested against human weapons. Plasma charges designed from studying captured alien technology exploded against enemy shields with devastating effect. What the aliens didn't know was that humans had been collecting and analyzing every piece of alien debris that had drifted into human space over the past decade. Direct hits on 3 enemy vessels, Tehan reported with excitement. Their shields are failing. They didn't expect us to know their weaknesses. Down on the colony's surface, Marine Captain Hyan Wu crouched behind a concrete barrier as alien dropships screamed overhead. The enemy landing craft were huge and heavily armed. carrying thousands of alien soldiers, equipped with advanced weapons and armor. "Here they come," he radioed to his battalion. "Remember, they think we're just scared colonists with farming equipment. Let's show them how wrong they are." The aliens had studied human colonies and expected to find panicked civilians running in terror, and maybe a few security guards with basic weapons. Instead, they walked into carefully prepared killing zones that had been designed by people who understood warfare. Every building had been turned into a fortress. Every street had hidden firing positions. Every park and plaza had been converted into a deadly maze of obstacles and traps. The colonists weren't helpless farmers and scientists. They were humans, and humans had been fighting for survival since before they left Earth. The first wave of alien soldiers advanced confidently through the colonial capital, expecting easy victory. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a nightmare of crossfire and explosions. Human defenders appeared from hidden positions, struck with devastating accuracy, then disappeared before the aliens could respond. "Command, this is Field Unit 7, an alien officer transmitted back to his ship. We're taking heavy casualties. These humans don't fight like anything in our military databases." His superior's response crackled through the communication system. "Explain. They fight like they're trying to die, but they're killing dozens of our warriors for every casualty we inflict. They've turned their entire city into a weapon. Every building is a fortress. Every colonist is a soldier." Similar reports were coming in from attack sites across human space. What should have been 12 quick victories had turned into 12 desperate battles. Human defenders were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with a ferocity that shocked their alien attackers. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Commander Sujin watched as another alien dreadnought exploded under concentrated human fire. Her small fleet was still vastly outnumbered, but they had proven something important. The aliens weren't invincible. "Sir," Lieutenant Taehyun called out, "we're receiving similar reports from other colonies. The enemy expected easy victories, but our people are fighting back everywhere." Sujin nodded grimly. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They had assumed that humans were weak because they were smaller and less advanced. They didn't understand that humans had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to survive against impossible odds by the end of the first day of fighting. The hegemony's quick conquest had become a grinding war of attrition. Human resistance wasn't just unexpected. It was terrifyingly effective. 3 weeks had passed since the first alien attack, and Supreme Commander Veltar of the hegemony forces sat in his command ship, staring at reports that should have been impossible. His multiple eyes scanned the data again and again, but the numbers remained the same. 40% of his forces were gone, dead, captured, or simply missing. "This cannot be correct," he muttered in his native language, his translator struggling with his species equivalent of disbelief. These humans were supposed to be primitive. How are they striking at our home worlds? The answer was moving silently through space, millions of kilometers away. Captain Minho guided his stealth destroyer through the darkness between stars, heading toward a target that could cripple 3 entire alien fleets. The UDS Shadow was humanity's newest weapon, built using technology that the aliens had never encountered before. "Ghost protocols are fully active, Captain," reported Lieutenant Yoonji from her station. "Their sensors are reading us as empty space. As far as they know, nothing is here." Minho nodded, watching the massive alien supply depot grow larger on his screens. The station was enormous, a metal city floating in space that provided fuel, ammunition, and supplies to thousands of enemy ships. Destroying it would leave 3 sector fleets stranded far from home, with no way to resupply. "Target acquired," whispered the weapons officer. "Quantum torpedoes are ready." The attack lasted only seconds, but its effects would be felt across the galaxy. Human quantum torpedoes struck the alien depot with weapons that didn't just explode. They tore holes in space itself, creating a swirling vortex of destruction that consumed everything within 50 kilometers. The massive supply station, along with the cargo ships docked to it, simply ceased to exist. Supreme Commander Veltar received the news of the depot's destruction with growing alarm. This was the 5th major installation the humans had somehow reached and destroyed. Ships that his sensors couldn't detect were appearing deep in hegemony space, striking critical targets, then vanishing like ghosts. How are they doing this? He demanded of his intelligence officers. Our territory is protected by sensor networks that should detect anything larger than a shuttle. His chief analyst, a creature with tentacles instead of arms, manipulated holographic displays showing attack patterns. Supreme Commander, we believe the humans have developed stealth technology that renders their ships invisible to our detection methods. They are not just hiding from our sensors, they are making themselves undetectable. Frustrated by losses that made no military sense, Veltar made a decision that would haunt the galaxy. If human military forces were too clever to defeat directly, perhaps breaking the spirit of human civilians would end their resistance. Begin bombardment of civilian targets, he ordered. Show these humans that their defiance costs innocent lives. The attack on New Sol Colony began at dawn. The peaceful farming world had no military installations, no weapons factories, no strategic value, except for the families who had made it their home. For 6 hours, alien warships rained death from orbit, while helpless colonists ran for shelters that couldn't protect them. When the bombardment finally stopped, 12,000 people were dead. Schools had been reduced to ash. Playgrounds where children had laughed just hours before were now fields of melted glass. Entire neighborhoods had been erased from existence. On Mars, General Duhayan sat in his underground command bunker reading casualty reports that felt like knives in his heart. Each name on the list represented a life cut short, a family destroyed, a dream ended. But one name made his hands shake with rage and grief. Teacher Ji Young Duhayan, age 28, killed in primary school bombardment. He read aloud, his daughter, his only child. The little girl who used to climb on his lap and ask him to tell stories about the stars, had grown up to teach other children about the wonders of the universe. Now she was gone, along with 37 of her students. Around the command center, staff officers watched their general with growing concern. They could see something changing in his eyes, something dark and terrible that had been kept locked away until now. "Sir," asked his aide, Colonel Vojan, "what are your orders?" Duhayan stood slowly, walking to a secure terminal that required his personal authorization codes. His fingers moved across the keypad with steady precision, despite the storm of emotion raging inside him. "Authorization code, Omega 77, he said quietly. "Deploy the Pandora arsenal." Colonel the Jinn felt her blood turn cold. She had heard rumors about the Pandora weapons, technologies so dangerous that they had been classified beyond top secret, weapons that Earth's leaders had hoped would never be used. "Sir," she said carefully, "those weapons were classified as final resort only. The authorization requires confirmation from the Defense Council." Duhayan turned to face her, and she saw something in his expression that made her step backward. It wasn't anger or hatred. It was something much worse. It was the look of a parent who had lost everything that mattered. "They wanted to see what humans do when you threaten our children," he said in a voice that carried the weight of absolute decision. "Contact the council. Tell them it's time to open the vault." The message went out within minutes. Across human space, secret facilities began powering up weapons that had been built in hope that they would never be needed. The aliens had escalated the conflict beyond military targets. Now they would learn what humanity was truly capable of when their families were threatened. Deep inside the hegemony's main intelligence facility, Analyst Corthan worked through the night, studying data that was making him question everything his species believed about warfare. His 6 eyes moved rapidly across holographic displays filled with information about humanity, and each new discovery made his skin change to darker colors of fear and confusion. For months, he had been trying to understand why the human war was going so badly for the hegemony. Every military computer model said the aliens should have won in days. Instead, human resistance was getting stronger with each passing week. Corthan's job was to figure out why, and the answer he found terrified him. Emergency council session requested. He transmitted to his superiors. Priority level maximum. We have made a terrible mistake. 2 hours later, Corthan stood before the War Council, a gathering of the most powerful military commanders in hegemony space. Their various alien forms filled the chamber. From the towering Veltari with their multiple arms to the floating gas beings who spoke through mechanical translators. Honored commanders, Corthan began, his voice shaking so badly that his translator had trouble keeping up. Our entire understanding of humans is wrong. We have not attacked a primitive species. We have awakened something that should have been left alone. The holographic display activated, showing Earth as it appeared millions of years ago. The planet looked nothing like the peaceful blue world that humans now called home. Instead, it was a hellscape of volcanoes, ice, and devastation. Look at their world, Corthan said, pointing at the images. Mass extinctions that killed 90% of all life. Ice ages that froze entire continents. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years. Any normal species would have died out in the first 1,000 years. More images flowed across the screens. Asteroid impacts that shattered continents. Climate changes that happened so fast that entire ecosystems collapsed overnight. Events that had ended countless other species throughout galactic history. But humans survived, Corthan continued. Not just survived, they grew stronger. Each disaster made them better at staying alive in impossible conditions. The display changed to show human history, and the War Council fell silent as they saw images of warfare that spanned thousands of years. Battles fought with primitive weapons that killed millions. Wars that lasted for centuries. Conflicts so intense that they shaped how humans evolved and thought. Their aggression isn't a character flaw, Corthan explained, his translator working overtime to convey the horror he felt. It's refinement. They have spent their entire evolutionary history learning to kill more efficiently than any other species in the galaxy. Every war they fought made them better at the next one. Supreme Commander Veltar leaned forward in his command chair. But they only achieved spaceflight recently. Their technology is inferior to ours. Corthan activated another display showing recent battle reports. That's what we thought. But look at what's happening now. Every human ship that survives a battle comes back upgraded with new weapons and better armor. They're not just fighting us. They're learning from us. The evidence was overwhelming. Admiral J1's fleet reports showed human tactics evolving in real time. Ships would retreat from one battle, then return days later with completely new fighting methods that countered whatever had defeated them before. Here, Corthan said, highlighting a specific report. Human forces captured one of our plasma cannons 3 weeks ago. 5 days later, they were using improved versions that were twice as powerful as the original. They reverse-engineered our technology and made it better in less than a week. Dr. Sujin's research facility on Europa had become a nightmare for hegemony planners. Every piece of alien technology that fell into human hands was quickly analyzed, understood, and improved. Upon human scientists weren't just copying alien designs. They were fixing problems that the original builders hadn't even known existed. Their fusion reactors now produce more energy than ours, Corthan reported. Their armor is stronger. Their weapons hit harder. They've taken our 1,000-year-old technology and made it obsolete in months. Fleet Commander Zethel, whose task force had been fighting humans in the Outer Rim, transmitted his own terrifying observations. They're not trying to capture our territory, or negotiate for peace. They're systematically destroying every military asset we have. This isn't a war. For them, it's pest control. The War Council exchanged worried communications in their various languages. The implications of Corthan's analysis were becoming clear. Humanity wasn't just another spacefaring species that had gotten too aggressive. They were something far more dangerous. In all our databases, Corthan said quietly, we have records of thousands of species across the galaxy. Peaceful traders, aggressive expansionists, even warrior races that love battle. But we have never encountered anything like humans. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the assembled commanders. They are apex predators who have spent millions of years turning survival into an art form. They don't just fight to win battles. They fight to completely eliminate threats to their survival. And by attacking their colonies, by threatening their families, we have identified ourselves as the primary threat to their species' existence. The chamber fell silent as the full horror of their situation became clear. They hadn't just started a war with humans. They had activated something that treated the destruction of enemies as a natural, biological function. The hegemony had made the greatest mistake in galactic history. They had given humanity a reason to unleash everything they were capable of. 6 months after the hegemony's ultimatum, Fleet Admiral Sajin stood on the bridge of the UDS Retribution, looking out at a galaxy that had changed completely. The massive dreadnought beneath his feet was a monument to human determination, built from captured alien technology, but powered by innovations that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ship was enormous, larger than the alien vessels that had once seemed impossible to defeat. Its hull gleamed with armor that could stop weapons designed to crack planets. Its engines could push it faster than any ship in known space. Most importantly, it was just one of 50 identical vessels that now patrolled what used to be hegemony territory. Admiral, called Captain Mi-young from her station. Final sector sweep is complete. We've checked every star system in the former Outer Rim territories. There are no alien military forces anywhere. They're all gone. Sejong nodded, but felt no satisfaction in the victory. The numbers told a story that was almost too incredible to believe. 12 advanced alien species, some with technologies thousands of years old, had been completely defeated by humans who had only been traveling between stars for 2 centuries. It hadn't been close. It had been systematic destruction on a scale that historians would study for generations. Every alien fleet had been hunted down and eliminated. Every military base had been captured or destroyed. Every weapon that the hegemony had once used to threaten human colonies now sat in human research facilities, being improved and upgraded. Commander Junho's science teams had worked miracles that seemed impossible. They had taken alien quantum drives and made them twice as fast. They had studied alien energy shields and created versions that were 10 times stronger. Every piece of technology that had once made the hegemony superior was now human technology, but better. Sir, reported the communications officer. We're receiving the final transmission from the surrender ceremony on the former hegemony capital world. The main screen activated, showing a scene that would be remembered throughout galactic history. On a world that had once been the center of a mighty empire, the surviving alien leaders knelt before a human delegation. Only 7 of the original 12 hegemony species were still capable of fighting. The other 5 had been so completely defeated that they no longer existed as military powers. Defense Minister Somian stood before the assembled alien commanders, her expression calm but implacable. Behind her, holographic displays showed human colonies spreading across space that had belonged to the hegemony just months before. Millions of human families were already building new homes on worlds that had never known human footsteps. The alien spokesman, a creature whose proud bearing had been broken by months of crushing defeats, transmitted his words through a translator that made his surrender sound even more final. We formally surrender all territorial claims and military assets to human authority. We request ... mercy from your species." Soman looked down at the beings who had once threatened to cleanse humanity from the galaxy. These were the same aliens who had given humans 24 hours to abandon everything they had built among the stars. The same ones who had bombed civilian colonies and killed children in their schools. "Mercy," she said quietly, her words being broadcast across both human and alien space, "is something that victors can afford to give when they win quickly and cleanly. You chose to make this a war of extinction. You decided that one of our species had to disappear completely. We simply proved to be better at extinction than you were." The ceremony ended with the formal transfer of all hegemony military assets to human control. Weapons, ships, technology, and territory that had taken the aliens thousands of years to build now belonged to humanity. The galaxy's newest spacefaring species had become its dominant power in less than a year, as Admiral Sajan watched the human fleet prepare to depart for new frontiers. He thought about the message that would spread across the galaxy in the coming months. Every species with the ability to detect radio signals would learn what had happened when the hegemony tried to force humanity into submission. The message was simple, but terrifying. Humanity had tried to live peacefully among the stars. They had been willing to trade, to share knowledge, to coexist with alien neighbors. War had been forced upon them by those who saw their expansion as a threat, but the war had taught humanity something important about their place in the universe. They weren't just another species struggling to survive in the vast darkness between stars. They weren't victims who needed protection from stronger, more advanced civilizations. They were apex predators who had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to eliminate existential threats. The hegemony had pulled the trigger, expecting to end a problem before it could grow larger. Instead, they had opened the gates of hell and discovered what lived on the other side. They had awakened something that turned warfare into an art form and survival into a science. As human ships departed to establish new colonies on former hegemony worlds, carrying families eager to build lives among alien suns, one final transmission was sent across the galaxy. It was addressed to any species who might be watching from the shadows, wondering if they should fear these newcomers from Earth. The message was brief. Humanity tried peace first. Remember that, in the depths of space, alien civilizations that had been planning to test human resolve quietly reconsidered their plans. The galaxy had a new apex predator, and it was probably better to be their friend than their prey.